you are probably the least reliable part in your own safety system. And yes, this also includes experienced keepers. Most people think venomous safety starts here. It doesn't. One of the most common ways for dangerous animals to escape is not even bad handling. You open an enclosure, you get distracted, you move on to do something else. And you forget to close the first one. Your memory is not a supercomputer. One task, one enclosure, and one setup at a time. Good venomous keeping is not about never making a mistake. It is about building a system where one simple mistake is not going to fail your whole system. Let's start with something extremely boring. Forgetting. Not bad hooks, not an aggressive snake, or some freak accident. Simply forgetting to finish what you have started. And this is not even exclusively a venomous mistake. People forget to close their terrariums completely all the time. They change water, adjust a branch, clean something, their phone rings, they walk away for just 5 seconds. And somewhere between starting the job and finishing it, their brain already decided that they're done. But they aren't. The enclosure is still open, or maybe just a 5mm crack. Maybe they forgot to turn the key of the lock. And with most reptiles, this is just annoying. But with dangerous, venomous reptiles, this is completely So one of the easiest rules I use is this. One task, one enclosure, one at a time. I don't want to deal with 3 tasks at one time. And I certainly don't want to have enclosure A still opened while I already start to work on enclosure B. And I definitely don't want to rely on my brain to work on 5 tasks at one time when most of the days I cannot even remember what I had for breakfast. If I open one enclosure, I finish the task. I close it, I secure it. I check on it again and I verify it. And only then I'm going to proceed to the next one. That is an easy yet effective workflow. And if I had more extensive work to do in one enclosure, then I will probably take out the snake and secure it in a safe bin. Because you really don't want to share your workspace with an animal that can send you to the hospital or even worse in no time really. The more variables you bring into your job, the higher is the risk for you to simply fuck up. I really don't trust myself to never forget anything because I know I'm dumb, and neither should you. There's another thing I do which looks completely stupid if you don't know why I'm doing it. Before certain jobs, I will deliberately put something somewhere where it doesn't belong. I might place an object in front of a door or in the middle of the walkway. Something that looks wrong. Something I will have to physically walk around or move if I want to leave the room. Why? Because when I see that stupid thing sitting there, it forces my brain to ask another question. Did I finish what I was doing? Did I close the enclosure? Did I secure it? And did I actually lock it? It's not a safety system. It's not replacement for checking. But it is just another simple interruption between me making a mistake and leaving the room unnoticed. And I do the same thing with temporary boxes. If I have an animal securely contained in a box, I place the snake hook on top of that box. For me, a hook on a box means there's an animal inside. Again, this is not replacement for labeling. It's not replacement for proper containment. And it's also not a magical safety procedure. It is a visual clue, especially when several similar boxes are laying around. I don't want important information just to exist in my head. I want important things to always be visible. And that is the bigger principle. Make important things visible. Animal inside, visible. Job unfinished, visible. Enclosure secured, verify it. Up here and with this. Every single time your safety system relies on you remembering something, you have simultaneously found a place where you can improve. Your brain is not a safety device. Design your room for failure. Now, let's assume you still fucked up, because someday somebody most definitely will. Maybe you didn't close an enclosure properly, maybe you forgot to lock the lock. Maybe an enclosure was damaged, or whatever the fuck else. So the question is no longer, can the animal escape the enclosure? Because it clearly has. The useful question is, what happens if? Now actually look at your room just right now and just imagine a venomous snake is loose in there. Where can it go? Behind the cabinet, under the shelf, into a wall cavity, through a cable opening, under the door, into another room? Can it disappear somewhere that makes visual confirmation almost impossible? Can another person walk into the room without knowing what happened? If yes, you're an idiot. That's another detail that people don't think about until they have no other option than to think about. The design of your room should give you options. What you want is visibility. You want to eliminate places where the animal can disappear completely. You also want barriers for the animal to just cross into any other room. And you want to think about all that before the animal is gone. And this is what I mean when I say design for failure. A good system does not ask what happens if everything goes as planned. That is easy. You should much rather ask yourself, what happens if only one thing doesn't? When people think of containment, they most of the time think about one object, the terrarium. But I think about it in layers. The enclosure is one layer, the lock another, the room is also another layer, and maybe even the building itself is a layer. Every single layer exists because the earlier one could probably fail. God forbid, but you never know. Let's say the enclosure didn't close properly. Not good. But the snake is still inside a controlled room. And then let's say something somehow still escaped the room. Now there should be another barrier for the animal to disappear any further. This is redundancy. And redundancy is one of the most important factors when it comes to keeping venomous reptiles. Because if your whole system is just the terrarium is secure, you don't really have a system. It's one layer of none. You have only one point of failure. And that's why I also don't like when people only rely on one lock. Yeah, you probably have a really good lock and it's secure. But if your whole security system just depends on one single item, it's probably not a very good system. And this applies to people as well. Who has access to the room? Can a guest accidentally open the door? And the worst of the worst, can a child enter the room? Guys, if you don't take care of this, I will personally find you and pay you a visit, which will probably not be that funny anymore. Can somebody who absolutely has no business to be inside the room get inside that room? This whole idea of safety systems is not just there to protect you. It's also there to protect the snake and everybody else from making a decision they should never have been able to make in the first place. Now, we finally get closer to the animals. And this is the part where finally most of the people start thinking about safety. Hooks, tongs, tubes, containers, whatever equipment you need for the task. But safety starts before you open the enclosure. And not vaguely, specifically. Where is the animal? What task do I need to do? What tools do I need? And where are they? Where does the animal need to go? And what to do if the animal is not doing what I want it to do? Because most of the time, they don't give a flying fuck about what you want them to do. What is your backup plan? And probably most importantly, do you actually need to open the enclosure right now? Because sometimes the safest decision is not to do a crazy maneuver with hooks. Sometimes it's simply not today. You might be exhausted or angry, you get distracted, you have to be somewhere in 10 minutes. Something outside of the room is actually demanding your attention. Great, unless this is a real emergency, the snake really doesn't care about your schedule. Just come back later. One of the biggest traps with experience is that people think just because they are experienced, they can perform on the worst conditions that they should perform. But it really doesn't. Experience should make you better in spotting those bad conditions. And this is where one task, one enclosure, and one setup at a time comes back again. If you open the enclosure, your attention goes 100% here. Not your phone, not another enclosure, not your dog, nothing but this setup. Finish your task, secure the animal, secure the enclosure, and then move on. Don't go ahead and create 5 different tasks and rely on your brain to babysit on all 5 of them. Because we both know your brain is probably not capable to do so. And this is super uncomfortable. Because experienced keepers are oftentimes the ones to believe that they have already solved this problem. You haven't. And neither have I. The most advanced piece of equipment in this entire room is simultaneously the one that is least reliable. You. We get tired, we get distracted, we become comfortable, and we build routines. And routine is pretty interesting because it can make you safer. Good routines reduce unnecessary hassle, but routine has also a dark side. Complacency. You have opened that enclosure 1,000 times. The animal usually behaves in a certain way. The job normally takes 30 seconds. The lock normally clicks correctly until the day it doesn't. The problem with doing stuff 1,000 times is that your brain automatically thinks that the next time will also work like that. And that is where people skip checks, where they start reaching before they look, and it's the point where people say everything is fine. And usually it is fine until it isn't. And that is the reason why bad habits simply never die off. If every single failure caused an immediate accident, nobody in their right mind would ever repeat it. The dangerous habits are the ones that work and work and work until they don't. And there is also another situation which many people don't ever think about. Change. New animal, new enclosure, new reptile room, new equipment, a renovation. Every change modifies your system. And an easy mistake to do is to think that just because your old system worked in a certain way, the new system will also. So whenever you have significant changes to your structure, reassess all of your safety aspects. Maybe the new enclosure opens differently. Maybe your own working position changed. Maybe the tools are not on the right side but on the left side now. Or maybe the animal will all of a sudden behave differently. Maybe you remove one barrier which was always part of your old routine. You don't need a risk assessment meeting every time you move a branch or a stone. But use your brain. What changed? What new failure point did you create? And do you need to modify your working structure? A system is not something that you build once and never think about it again. Alright, now think about this. The enclosure is open. The animal is not in it anymore. Now what? This is not the point where I'm going to make a YouTube tutorial about how to find an escaped snake. That is not what this video is about. But the important question is, have you made your plan on this before anything happened? Do other people know not to enter the room? Can you secure the area? Do you know exactly what animal is missing? And how many animals supposed to be in that enclosure? Where is your equipment? Who needs to know about this whole stupid situation? What areas can the animal disappear in? And what areas can it not reach? The whole issue with this is about your ability to not let a stupid situation get even more stupid. And there is another thing that I'd like to say. Good safety planning is not imagining that you're so perfect that an escape can never happen. It is about accepting that even tiny little low probability failures still deserve intense planning. You may and hopefully never ever need that plan. Good. And that is the ideal outcome. A fire extinguisher which was mounted to the wall and did diddly-dick for 20 years had an awesome career. Now, let's make this worse. God forbid, the snake didn't escape, but you got bit. And all of a sudden, each and every single piece of information which you thought you had a whole bunch of time to learn later matters now. What species was it? Exact species. If you're gonna say it was a rattlesnake or a cobra or a viper, you are probably already fucked. Who calls the emergency service? Where are you going? What medical information do you have to take with you? Who needs to be contacted? And where is the relevant anti-venom information? Who knows what you keep? And what happens if you're not any longer capable of answering questions because you are busy laying on the ground and foaming up? Because this is the problem with a safety plan that lives inside a keeper's head. Because the keeper himself might be the person that has trouble speaking right now. And that is exactly why I made this, the Venomous emergency folder. Not because this will save you from any snake bite. It won't. And not because owning a folder makes you prepared. It doesn't. I made it because the worst possible moment to gather information on your snakes and their venom is after the shit has already hit the fan. The whole point of it is to gather those informations beforehand. Informations another person might need when you cannot provide them anymore. And then make it physically accessible. Don't download it and bury it inside a folder on your laptop. Print it, fill it out, keep it current, and put it somewhere another person can actually find it. Because if your wife, your friend, emergency services, or anybody else helping you needs that information, saying, "It is somewhere on my computer," is not a plan. And the folder is free. The link is below. Grab it, fill it out, and pray to the God of your choice that you never need it. And this is another place where keepers confuse ownership with preparedness. Having emergency equipment doesn't mean you have an emergency system. Having phone numbers ready does not mean that they are still current. And having hospital information does not mean that everybody else know it. Having a plan does not mean that it works out perfectly when you never mentally walk through it. As with many things, emergency planning needs maintenance. Animals change, numbers change, behaviors change, contacts change, hospitals change, anti-venom availabilities change, and your collection might also change. So every now and then ask yourself, if again, God forbid, something would happen today, is all of that information still correct? Because the folder isn't a document you complete once and forget. It is just another layer. And that brings us back to the beginning. I don't think that good venomous keeping is about becoming a flawless person who never makes any mistakes. That's really just fantasy. We're all humans, and humans make mistakes. And even experienced humans make mistakes. Your goal should be to design the environment, your procedures, and emergency response around this reality. You have the keeper, then the procedure, then the enclosure, then the lock, the room, you have your access control, and then your emergency plan. Each and every layer is just another opportunity to stop one mistake become something much worse. And every layer should buy you another chance. That is what a safety system does. If forgetting one lock can create disaster, you need to reassess your system. If being distracted for 5 seconds also creates disaster, you need to reconsider your system. If nobody else knows what to do in case of an emergency, rethink your system. If your entire system is based on the assumption that you will never make any mistakes, reconsider your system. Safety is not one tool. It's not one lock. It's not one hook. And it definitely isn't just experience. It's an entire chain. But there is one part that I deliberately haven't showed you guys today. What happens when the enclosure actually opens and you're working directly with the animal? Distance, positioning, tools, complacency, feeding mistakes, and the decisions that turn routine handling into an accident. That is the other half of this. And I already broke that down in this video. Or maybe it's there. I don't know. I think it's here. If you keep venomous snakes or you plan to, watch this one next. Or this one. I think it's here.